Dude, there's a restaurant right around the corner from us that makes a salad pizza.
Ooh.
And let me tell you, it is a fucking life-changing experience, Will.
Really? Well, you're not even like vegan or vegetarian. I mean, this is sounds like a feast for me, but
I like vegetables, I like salad.
Mhm.
I'm not the type of person that requires a meat on everything I eat.
Are
And
you one of those fuckers that like makes a salad and then like drowns it in fucking like ranch dressing?
no, I prefer a balsamic or an Italian.
Respect, respect.
But man, let me tell you, we got to get this pizza because I think this will like just change your mind or just blow your mind. There's no mind to
Sure.
change because I know you're going to love it, but
Okay.
it's cheeseless, but there's still like a sauce base to the crust,
Mm.
and then just lettuce, tomato, olives, cucumbers, nice like Italian dressing, Parmesan sprinkled on top. It's magnifique.
My mouth is it's magnifique. You said that in such a strange way.
I think I went French on the Italian.
You did, but like the way that you kind of instead of saying it's magnifique, you went down with it. You're like it's magnifique. like that's it. Like that's final.
Oh yeah, well it is. Hey everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. You're listening to episode 39 for the week of August 25th, 2019. I'm your host, Drew, and I am joined by hot air balloon, Will.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm tired, bro, but I'm good. We were supposed to record on Friday, and unfortunately I had, like, the plague, and so we postponed it for a couple days. We're recording on Sunday instead. I'm feeling better, not 100%, but
Good.
like maybe like 85.
Okay, that's a pretty huge improvement.
I think so. How are you?
I'm well, man. I attended that festival, and you were working there, and
Yeah.
you already know my feelings on that. But festivals are not my forte for everybody listening. But yeah, I'm well, man. It's been a great weekend. The weather's been amazing the past couple days.
Oh my God.
Really lucky to be able to enjoy that, and I'm really excited about today's episode.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. All kinds of gaming goodness planned. I don't even know where to start. I guess we'll just get the bullshit out of the way first, and then we'll dive right in, huh?
Sure.
So thank you, everybody, for hitting that download button. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't already. We're available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, Spotify, you name it, we're there. You can find us on the web at WDGRPodcast.libsyn.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WDGRPodcast. It's at WDGRPodcast. Will, if somebody would like to follow you, how can they do so?
Sure. It's going to be Will_Gear.
And you can follow me at ScionStorm. And, well, I mean, should we kind of postpone the What Are You Playing? Because it sounds like both of us have a lot of gaming stuff to talk about.
Yes, maybe we should jump to mailbag.
All right, so we'll do the mailbag first. Thank you to everybody who sent the stuff in. Stop on by the Discord room. There's a link in the show notes if you'd like to visit and send us questions for our review on the episode. First comes from Raffi Fatfingers. He says, we talked on previous episodes about what superpower you guys would pick. But what about a weakness? If you had superpowers, what would be your one weakness?
Since I need a little bit more time with this, why don't you go ahead, Drew?
Women.
That would be your superpower weakness, huh?
Video game collections.
Okay. Okay. Explain.
Digital books. We're talking about superpower weaknesses.
I was like, wow, you got three answers.
My mistake. I thought you were talking about my personal weaknesses. Well, I always wanted to have the superpower to be able to suplex a tank, and I would call that a Drewplex.
Wow. You are a dork.
Shut up. So I guess like my weakness would have to be like to counter that. So, heights, being thrown from a large building. I don't know. Water.
Okay. So water would be your weakness.
I could be like Bender, and like if I don't drink enough beer, I become intoxicated.
Who's Bender?
I should reach this microphone and smack the shit out of you right now.
I'll turn this car around, man. Is he from Futurama?
Yeah?
Oh, he's the dude with, he's your logo.
No, that's Fry.
Oh, okay.
God damn it. All right, what's yours?
What's my logo? Oh, what's my weakness? I know. Fucking horrible. Shows how on track I am. If I had a superpower, what would be my weakness? I don't know, man. I would say probably I'd have to relate this to like a real life weakness or fear. Probably like heights or like spiders, and I know those are more fears than weaknesses, but I would still attribute that to a weakness because I
think your weakness would be festivals.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could be Superman attending a festival, and kryptonite is not your one weakness. It could be a festival as well. Funnel cakes, you just want to you want to stay away from the funnel cakes because it's a weakness, or maybe like it could be a weakness because you enjoy them so much.
You remember that episode of The Simpsons where it's one of the Treehouse of Horrors and Homer goes to hell and the devil's like, "Oh, so you like to eat donuts, eh? Well, have all the donuts you can eat." And he just keeps feeding him donuts and he doesn't stop eating them. And Homer's just like, "Yeah, just keep them coming."
I don't remember that episode. However, I could see perhaps Superman being like, you know what? Let me get 8 funnel cakes to go, and that's my weakness. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's a tough question, Raph. I think when you think of yourself having superpowers, the last thing you think of is what is your weakness, because you're thinking about what are your powers and how can they be super. So you're thinking about the good sides of it. So. Great question, but a tough one. I would still have to attribute my weakness to fears. It's probably the only way that I can really answer that one.
It's the easiest type of thing to relate to.
Yeah, I think so.
Joe Donut says, have either of you been keeping up with the coverage on Death Stranding? I know Will's a huge fan of Kojima. I am too, but sometimes I wonder what other people's limits are. Kojima is definitely pushing them with this one. Seeing video game versions of Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro referring to a baby in a jar as BB had me cackling. Margaret Qualley's character is breastfeeding a ghost baby in one of the trailers. It's absurd. I love it. It's not remotely a, quote, cool game. Where do you two stand? Well, Joe, I checked out after what was it, E3? Or there was some kind of a gameplay reveal earlier this year. And that was it for me.
Yeah, I mean,
not buying it.
The bottom line here is, Kojima and everything to do with Death Stranding is obviously a big self-promotion game right now, and this is very typical of Kojima. He loves to promote himself, and he'll promote a game until the cows come home, and then all of a sudden it's just out. I have been watching a lot of, I guess news or like just kind of screenshots that Kojima's releasing on this game. And what he's basically doing right now is he's sort of promoting the game with just random screenshots of him probably demoing the game or just testing it. And you just kind of see these pictures of Norman Reedus' character. I believe it's Sam, whatever. Just kind of sitting in like a field, like doing something. And that, again, that's very typical of Kojima. He likes to be very like cryptic and very subtle with what he's showing. But I think that as a fan of Kojima, it's just what he does, so I'm used to it.
Right.
But it's exciting for me. I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out what this game's about. They have a little bit of a better knowledge, but it's still very hard to understand what's going on. And he just keeps posting selfies of him with, Jeff Kiley and Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro and all these cool people. And Kojima's always dressed so cool. Is it remotely a cool game? I would agree with you there. I think right now it's hard to say. Again, kind of going back to some of the gameplay that we saw, it does look a little bit arcadish with some of the movements. And the movements are very pertinent to MGS5, so that's a little bit concerning in some ways, and I've explained that before as to why. But overall, I mean, I'm still excited for it, and I think that I really can't help but harken back to what I said previously. Like, this is Kojima. This is his style of promoting games. And I think that if you're not on board with that, it's going to be hard for you to be excited for this title.
Yeah, I feel like you're either a Kojima fan or you're not at this point.
That's correct.
And there's not much wiggle room in between. He's making games for himself and for his fan base, and fuck everybody else. And that's okay.
Yeah, he kind of has that approach. I mean, I'm not sure like who he's targeting with this game. It does definitely seem to be a little bit more of a fan base thing, which again is fine. But we'll see what happens. Like, I think there's definitely, when it comes to the general masses of gamers, I don't think that everybody is paying attention to this. I think it definitely seems to be more fans.
Right. It's kind of for me, it's a bit of a shame too, because I really enjoyed Norman Reedus' work on The Walking Dead. His character was one of my favorites on the show before I just kind of checked out of the show altogether. And, I think I had kind of high expectations for his participation in this game, and I'm sure that he's done a wonderful job, but I think everything else about the game has just turned me completely off on it. I'll keep my eyes on it in the peripheral, but I'm not planning on buying it. Maybe if the buzz is really good and people are saying, hey, this is definitely like a must-play game, then maybe I'll check it out, but it's certainly not going to be day one, and I'm not paying full price.
Yeah, again, I think right now it's just so early to tell. Again, if you're a fan, I think it's something to be hyped about, but I think there are definitely some fans out there too that are not so hyped because they're not pleased with some of the cryptic promotional work that's kind of coming out right now, and it's bizarre. It's a little bit bizarre, but I don't know. I think that overall we're at a stage where I think a lot of us are sick and tired of seeing Kojima just like hanging out with Jeff Keighley and showing the fact that Jeff Keighley's now in the game, and it's kind of just like, all right, Kojima, like, I get it, man. Like, you're trying to just drop hints here and there, and like you're building, but like, let's just see a trailer. Let's just see some more gameplay. Let's understand what this game's about. Let's just, I don't know, man. Like, let's just get people a little bit more hyped for it. I think that's what needs to happen next.
When I'm looking at the release date on this now, it's this year, November.
It is, yeah. It's coming up pretty quick, and that could be why we're not seeing too much, because he's probably just going to leave it this way. But we'll see. I don't know if it's going to be day one. Knowing me, it probably will be, because like a lot of times I'll be like, I'm going to wait, and then, I'll change my mind, and next thing you know, I'm standing in a fucking midnight release line at GameStop. So
apparently there was a new trailer that was launched during Gamescom over this weekend.
Oh, really?
And when I typed in Death Stranding, I get one of the top stories is from IGN.com. And I'm going to read the title for you, because I think this really kind of just reaffirms my feelings on the game. Death Stranding. New gameplay shown off includes urination mechanic.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard about this on Twitter, and somebody was like, I forget what the person said, but I think it was along the lines of like, we don't really give a fuck about this, like, just tell us about the game. It was something along the lines of that. And I know for you right now, just based on that sigh that you just let out.
You heard that.
Yeah, I definitely did. Clear as all day. But I think for you, it's you're having like that hardcore effect of just like, okay, like, but sell me on the fucking game. Like, I don't care if the horse gets to poop.
Right.
That was a big selling point, even just for, MGS5. Like, they were just like, oh yeah, like one of the mechanics is the horse can defecate, and Red Dead Redemption 2, I believe there's a feature where the horse poops and it can pee and shit like that, and it's like, all right, I get it, it's cool, it's realistic, but like, those shouldn't be like big news titles.
Right.
We should be hearing about something a little bit more substantial.
Yeah, the fact that like that's a headline on IGN, I think says a lot about the direction of this game and what they're focusing on. And like, who cares? Like, first of all, why is there a mechanic for it? Like, why do you need to relieve yourself every X number of hours? I mean, is there a hydration mechanic too?
Who knows?
You know what I mean? Like, maybe you like piss in a jar and you hold it up to the light, and if it's too yellow, you drink more water. I don't even care. Like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we'll move on from that. We'll see what happens on release. I think that's the next step for us.
Puxor asks, first of all, now that Will has a Quest and Scion Storm has a Switch, which we'll get into shortly, when will this become a VR podcast? And he threw us a nice link to the Nintendo Labo VR kit, which is cute. Excuse me while I choke to death here. Hold on. Sorry about that. I wasn't aware that the Labo had a VR kit, but it doesn't surprise me. I think that's pretty cool. Certainly not the equivalent of a Quest, but it's probably not going to be a VR podcast, but you never know what happens, I guess.
Yeah. I think there'll be obviously more talk on VR as I get more experience with it and I play more games. But overall, it's interesting that Nintendo Labo seems to have something that's related to it. I have yet to look into this particular link, but I certainly will.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's just showing all the other shit you could do with the Labo, which I think if you have like children that are about 10 years old and they're like really hardcore into Legos, like this is exactly the kind of thing that you want to play with them.
Mm-hmm.
You get to sit down, you build this awesome toy with them out of cardboard, which is, fairly sturdy, and it becomes this experience that you have together. But I think as, 30-something gamers, the Labo's not for us, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty neat, and I give Nintendo all the kudos for trying something new.
Sure.
He also asks, I've recently grabbed Yoku's Island Express for its really interesting blend of Metroidvania mechanics and pinball. What games have you enjoyed that mix two seemingly incompatible genres into an awesome experience?
This is a little tough for me. I think a lot of the games that I play are sometimes a little bit bizarre for some folks, but I don't know if they ever really mix two genres into an awesome experience. I mean, I could be wrong. I'd have to think about that one a little bit more, but most of the games that I play and have played have been kind of just one genre, I don't know if there's a lot that really mix the two, like I said before. I think Pucks, you definitely play a lot of games that are a little bit more far-fetched in the indie realm than perhaps Drew and myself. I don't know. I feel like Celeste might be, even though I haven't played it, it might mix two genres. I could be wrong on that, Drew.
I mean, Celeste is really just a very difficult platformer at its core. So I really wouldn't say that it's blending any genres per se.
Okay.
When I think of things that are like blending genres, for example, one of the first games to my mind was Twisted Metal, which blends, cars and racing kind of mechanics with like violence and shooting.
Sure.
I think that was a game that kind of really did a fantastic job of taking these two things that I never knew I wanted and putting them in one. Mass Effect for combining RPG elements with third-person shooting.
Yeah,
I was going to say Sins of a Solar Empire is a really nice blend of like a 4X game with a real-time strategy game, but that's like such a minor thing. I don't know. It's all these like little things, I guess.
Yeah, because like, just thinking about it, like after you mentioned a couple games there, you could certainly say that quite a few games, I suppose, do mix genres in some way, shape, or form. Like you could take like even Child of Light that I haven't played yet, and I know you've spoken highly of that game, and that's a side scroller for the most part, but has a very intense RPG element to it as well.
Yes.
So, I mean, I guess that's a blend of two genres, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a game that we need to experience together. I'd love to circle back to that game because it just it's a good story, fantastic music, and really just amazing art. And the battle system in it is quite excellent. Just everything about that game is pretty damn close to perfect, in my opinion.
Yeah,
to me overall though, it just seems like most of those kind of mashups of genres always combine something with RPG.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say at this point. There's a lot of RPG elements that are really thrown into quite a lot of games now, even Sekiro and Dark Souls. Like, I mean, those are not just exploration open world games. A lot of them are really tied in with RPG elements quite often.
Horizon, Spider-Man, anytime you have like this kind of system where your character is progressing and leveling up. That's
correct, yes.
Where it's a permanent upgrade. It's not just like, you have these power-ups and if you get hit, you drop them kind of thing. That's really, to me, an RPG element, and those are everywhere now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head there. Like, a lot of games now, a lot of these devs are creating those RPG elements because they know that it brings an addictive quality to games. Even if you just take Skyrim and you're trying to level up your character, or you're trying to upgrade your sword, anything that, like you said, requires progression and upgrades is something that adds a very addictive RPG quality to any game, really.
Absolutely. So, folks, don't forget to send in your questions in our Discord room. You can hit us up in the link in the show notes, or you can send us an email, WDGRPodcast@gmail.com, WDGRPodcast@gmail.com. All right, well, so we got a lot of games to talk about today, man.
We definitely
I know you had a ton of stuff. I bought a Switch this week.
Hooray!
Yeah, finally.
Essentially free.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had to buy a candy bar, but...
Yeah, you had to buy a candy bar. I forgot that part. But what a liberating experience that must have been.
Dude, as I've mentioned on the show before, I've been just banking Best Buy points for what seems like 2 years now. And I waited for the new one to come out, the new Switch, and I walked in, Best Buy, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to buy this thing, because I didn't want to order it online and then have them send me the old one. I wanted to make sure that I walked out of the store with the thing in my hands.
Sure.
So I can ensure that I was getting the right model. And I went in, and I saw that they had it, and I stood like right off to the side of the register and redeemed my certificates on my app, and I walked right up to it, and the girl rings me up, and she's like, "You need to buy something else." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, there's no tax on the item because, all right, I had $300 in certificates, and the price of the item is $299.99, right? So I have to actually get over 300 in order to use the 300.
Okay.
So, and I guess because I wasn't like buying the system, I was using these points. There's no sales tax to kind of get me over the edge.
Really?
So she's like, "Well, we have candy bars." I'm like, "Do you have gum?" "No."
All yeah, right, it's kind of funny. Like, it's really kind of funny, like how Best Buy has always, and mind you, for years now, they've always had like pretty fucking good snacks up front. Like,
oh yeah,
like what's up with that? Like, is that just like a way to just grab a little bit more money at the end for the customer, or is that?
Oh, totally. And I paid a premium for that Reese's too.
It was like full price, like
$2.69 for a king size. Bitch, I can get that for $1 at Stop and Shop.
Jesus, yeah, you paid Best Buy prices for that.
I did. But man, other than that though, like I walked out the door with a Switch. It didn't cost me a dime.
Well, see, maybe the candy thing is like a way for you to like bask in like your glory of like purchasing like an electronic item. Like,
well, Nikki was happy that I brought it home, so I guess that worked.
Oh, the candy?
Yeah, not the Switch. She don't care about the Switch.
Oh, so you managed to save some of it.
Well, I gave her like 2. I brought it home and kept it in the fridge. We had it for dessert.
Okay, so it's a 4-pack of Reese's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I would have like crushed all 4 of those. It would have been a light breeze for me.
I mean, I could have.
Yeah.
But like, if she looked at that receipt, I'm like, "Hun, check this out," because the two of us have like this couponer mentality. So anytime we get anything for free, like we got to like show it off. Like that's a badge of pride.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Hun, check this out. I didn't pay anything for my Switch." And she looks at the receipt and she's going to see the Reese's. She's like, "Where the fuck are the Reese's?"
That'd be funny if you just like tore it off or like cut it with scissors. And she's like, why does this look cut?
Shut up.
And you have like peanut butter breath. Like, what's going on here? You're like, you don't think I just bring like Pure Band peanut butter with me? Or like I got a little container of Jif like in my cup holder at all times?
That's how I stay, keep my hunger down.
Yeah, keep my hunger at bay.
get that protein up,
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's, that's great, man. I'm so glad that you got a Switch, and what a way to purchase one.
Yeah, it was worth the wait. I'm very happy with it. Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't have any money to buy any actual games. So I just kind of brought the thing home and set it up. And one of the reasons that I decided to actually pull the trigger that weekend was because Grease was on sale for $10 on the digital store. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I really want to get like a physical game, either like Breath of the Wild or Mario or, something.
Mm-hmm.
But those I can kind of wait for. I don't mind being patient for a good price for something like that.
Sure.
When with a digital sale, I don't know when that game's going to go on sale again. And $10 is a good price. So I'm like, I know I'm going to buy it. Let's just fucking do it.
Yeah, I think Grease is one of those games that will hold its value for, the time being. Like, that's a game that's going to sit at like 15 to 20 for a while, and it's probably going to, keep dropping and going back up, depending on sales. But yeah, $10 for that game is 100% worth it.
I ended up buying a couple other digital games too, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed with the quantity of sales in the Nintendo eShop and the quantity of demos too. There's a lot of games that have demos that are available, which is not something I can really say about like the PlayStation or the Xbox.
Yeah, demos are as far as I know, not so popular anymore. Like, I think a lot of people just rely on the internet and gaming websites and YouTube and stuff to kind of get an idea of what a game's going to be about. But it's kind of interesting to know that demos still exist, and it's nice to know that Nintendo eShop has a good selection.
Somebody was saying that the demo for the new Dragon Quest is 10 hours long.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah, I feel compelled to play it just for that alone. I may never buy the game, but like 10 hours on that demo, like holy shit.
So what kind of like demos and whatnot did you scoop up?
Well, so I bought Grease, and let's see here. As far as demo, I have the Switch right in front of me actually. I got the Nintendo Online subscription, which I was able to get that Twitch offer for free. 12 months is still up, so I was able to grab that. And then, so I downloaded Tetris 99, and I downloaded the Nintendo NES thing that you can play all the old games on.
Sure.
And my first night, like, before I even bought Grease, like, I'm sitting here with this $300 fucking Switch playing Mario 1.
I remember that text, yeah.
So that was weird.
Yeah.
But I downloaded a demo for Cadence of Hyrule.
Okay.
And that's a lot of fun. I definitely can see myself picking that up at some point. Are you familiar with the game at all?
I'm still not. I remember this is a game that Pux was playing at one point.
And Vortex was, too.
Okay.
It's a good mashup, actually, of genres, speaking of. It's kind of, it has the same kind of art style as, like, A Link to the Past, for example.
Okay.
A top-down kind of view. Same kind of, like, graphics. But whenever you're in an area where there's enemies, a song starts to play, and your movement has to be in time with the beat of the song. And the enemies also move in time to the beat of the song. They have like their own movement pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to like time out their pattern with your movement for your attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of gives the game a very different flavor, a different strategy. Overall, just a different vibe. And it's a lot of fun. While you're playing and trying to complete these areas, you're tapping your foot so that, you're able to time your movements a little bit more closely to the song, and I definitely recommend checking out the demo. I didn't beat the demo, but I have enough of a taste of the game where I think I may actually want to pick it up at some point.
Yeah, I might have to check this out. I really had no idea that it had that kind of I don't know what you would call it. I guess like a gameplay element where like a lot of it's based on movement. I guess. Yeah. Hence the name Cadence. That seems to make sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's based on a game called Crypt of the Necromancer, or Crypt of the Necromancer's Dance, or Dance of the Necromancer. I'm trying to read it. I can't fucking read it. Just Crypt of the Necromancer.
Okay.
Yeah. Necro Dancer. Oh, there we are. Okay. Crypt of the Necro Dancer. I'll get this fucking right. Anyway, it's based off of the gameplay of that, but with Zelda elements, Zelda story. Um, it's really cool. It's very clever. It's different, and it's nice to see Nintendo kind of putting their properties in the hands of another developer to see
Mm-hmm.
what they could do with it. And I think they succeeded. I mean, I would have to play the full game to really determine that, but I like it. I liked what I played.
Good. So overall, like you've been having a pretty decent warm up with this thing.
Yeah. So in addition to that, I downloaded a couple other demos too. I downloaded the demo for Octopath, but I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
I played. Let's see here. I think I unlocked 3 colors on Grease. I'm not sure how many there are, but
I don't remember, but there's quite a few.
so I would say, anywhere from a quarter to halfway through the game based on that. I also downloaded this game called OTTTD, which is over the top tower defense.
Oh
I think
my
I
God.
paid like $1.99 for it.
You love those tower
Um,
defense games.
Yeah, I do. And that's fun. It's the kind of thing where I can just kind of fire it up, play one level, shut it down.
Yep.
I picked up this game called Serial Cleaner for $1.99, and it's like this top down of a guy who is a cleaner for like the mob, and you have to go into these crime scenes and mop up the blood, grab the evidence, get the bodies while there is a police presence there. And it's this type of game where it's kind of like sneaking, kind of like Metal Gear Solid, where you're trying to avoid being detected, but you have no weapons whatsoever. If you are seen, you have to hide or get caught. There's no like fighting the cops. That doesn't exist. So it's very strategic. You have to kind of plan your route, and you're kind of on the defense the entire time while simultaneously trying to get in and be aggressive enough to grab the body or sweep up the blood or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I also grabbed Bastion for $2.99.
Oh, perfect.
Which I already have it on the Xbox, but I felt like the price was really good. And I also grabbed a game by the same developer called Transistor.
Oh, wonderful.
Are you familiar with Transistor?
Dude, are you kidding me? I've mentioned that game plenty of times on the show.
I don't listen to you when you talk.
Clearly. No, that game is incredible, dude. I played that game, oh my gosh, probably a couple of years ago. And it is ultimately definitely in my top, I would say, 15 games of all time. Really, really good game, and that's going to look marvelous on the Switch.
It was like $3.99.
Wow,
So
that's a steal.
I bought that, Bastion, and Serial Cleaner in the same night, and I spent less than $10 on all 3.
Yeah, that's incredible. That is a fantastic deal. I cannot stress that enough on Transistor, because I'm pretty sure I paid anywhere from 15 to 20 for that.
Okay.
That was years ago, but still.
Right. I mean, the game, it kind of leads me into my next thing with the Switch, really, is the store itself. And while the sales are very impressive and the quantity of games is very impressive, there's no means of reviewing a game or getting any kind of reviews on a game without like going on my phone or on a computer and looking it up. And that's a little bit frustrating. But not only that, there's like this real strong disconnect between what happens on the Switch and what happens in the Nintendo store on the computer. And like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like there's something that could be better, because like, if I want to add a game to like my wish list, I could do it on the Switch, and I'll get a notification when that game is on sale. Apparently, I haven't gotten the one yet, but allegedly that's what it does. But there's no way of adding a game to your wish list on the computer. And like, if I'm going to be researching these games to determine whether or not I want to buy them, since I can't look at reviews on the Switch, I'm going to do it on the computer. And it would just make sense to me to have that option to add a wish list from the website or something of that nature. Make it a little bit easier for people. And I feel like there's just this real strong disconnect between what you could do on the system and what you could do on the web. And when you have like an Xbox or even a PlayStation, who, in my opinion, the PlayStation Store is pretty rough. Like between the 3, like I think Nintendo might have the worst one, between the system and the website, how much the disconnect there is.
Yeah, I haven't really experienced or had a lot of exposure to that. But what I can say about the Nintendo eShop is I like the fact, and as far as I know, this is true. You can actually finally purchase a game for the exact amount versus having to buy like the points or whatever. And I know Xbox Live and Nintendo used to have it that way, where you had to buy like a certain amount of like points or credits or whatever. And I believe PlayStation was like one of the first, I guess, like stores that didn't, force you to do that. So I'm just happy now that the Nintendo eShop allows you to purchase something for the exact amount.
To the best of my knowledge, all three systems allow you to do that now.
Yes.
But I can definitely verify that the Switch allows it. I have not had to add any additional points or any of that bullshit. I can buy it for exactly what it is. However, I cannot add more than one game to a cart at a time. I have to purchase each title individually. And that's a pain in the ass, because when I bought those 3 games, I knew I was going to buy all 3.
Yep.
And I did it all in one shot, and I couldn't just, break it up. I had to, buy one, then go back. And I have this password protected, too, because I don't want, like, if God forbid my Switch gets stolen or I leave it somewhere, I don't want somebody just logging into my account and just buying all these games digitally. So I set it up so I have to enter the password each time I make a purchase. That means I had to enter my password 3 times.
Yeah, that's pretty monotonous. A lot of people or Nintendo could argue, like, based on our statistics, like, most folks are only buying one game at a time. But, like, when they have sales like you speak of, like, $1.99 and $5 or whatever, you're going to stack that shit and you're going to just want to check out one full swoop.
There's a game on sale right now that I keep looking at for 89 cents.
Wow.
And it's a rhythm game. And it's got some, like, half-naked anime girls in it. So I'm not really interested in it because I really don't like either of those genres.
Uh-huh.
But for 89 cents, like, that's less than a cup of coffee. I can get 89 cents worth of fun out of that, even if I play it once.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible price. It sounds like there's potentially no catch with that either. Maybe it's just one of those games that people just overlook. A lot of people don't play rhythm stuff, unless it's like Beat Saber. It's kind of like the thing now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's definitely something to probably scoop up, I would say, for sure.
Here's another platformer called Coloro, 99 cents. It looks kind of like, this looks a lot like Celeste.
Okay.
Actually, the same kind of platforming as Celeste. That kind of like, really difficult type thing. I'm just looking through the sales right now. I was really tempted to buy Guacamelee 1 and 2 again. Those are fun games. If you're looking for a good Metroidvania game with just really clever humor, Guacamelee is fucking great.
Yeah, I think Joe has played those games. I believe there's like more than one, right?
There's 2.
Okay.
There's 2. Yeah. I have not played the second one, but the first one was one of my favorite games on the Xbox. Here's another title called Long Reach. It's $1.49. It's an adventure game filled with colorful characters, puzzles, and a shock of discovery. Ooh.
I tell you, this reminds me of Steam sales, which can be incredibly dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Yeah, because you start seeing those low prices, and you're like, it's only this, it's only that, and you get to your cart, and you're like, okay, it's only like $30 or whatever, and you go ahead and you make that purchase, and then all of a sudden you have like 10 games, and then you're like, holy shit.
I just found a game for 29 cents.
Right. So given the fact that it's a super cheap deal, I think that's kind of how they get you sometimes, is you end up stacking all these games and you basically don't play them.
There's, from what I could tell, there's a lot of stuff here that's probably junk too.
Oh, I would say so, yeah, for sure.
I as I'm browsing this, there's a lot of stuff here that are definitely just like ports of mobile games. And, that kind of scares me a little bit. Doesn't seem like there's any kind of like quality filter.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like I feel like it's more important than ever to be able to easily access game reviews. Even if it's, just a star system. Even if you don't want to let people like leave like actual text, because I know Nintendo's family friendly and they don't want people, drawing like dick emojis and stuff. Like there has to be some way to rate these games so that people know what they're buying, because otherwise, like, I'm just going to grab my laptop, I'm going to start typing stuff in and kind of hope for the best,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that overall you're enjoying the Switch. I think it's a great little handheld system.
I haven't spent as much time with it on the TV as I'd like to. It's been mostly, the handheld mode, but I really like the ability to, sit on the sofa while Nikki's watching a movie or something that I don't have any interest in, and I can just throw my headphones on and play some games, and, that's exactly what we did earlier this week, and it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a great little screen. I think sometimes my newest takeaway from having the Switch is, potentially trying to not or resist the temptation to dock it. Because, since I think a lot of us as gamers, we're kind of spoiled with our, 55-inch plus TVs, with our, big boy consoles, that with the Switch, it's you get that temptation that you just want to dock it and grab the Pro Controller and just go to town. And that's fine. But I think that there are some games that are meant to be played on the Switch screen itself. And I think games like Octopath Traveler and things of that nature are definitely games that you want to experience on that screen.
I will say that in my playing of Grease, there have been a couple points where the game has zoomed out to show a much larger picture. And I feel like maybe the size of the screen is giving me like a bit of a disservice at that point. I haven't played a ton of it on the TV, so it's hard for me to say for sure, but there have been some parts where it's a super wide angle, and I'm having a hard time seeing my character because my character is so small. So I'd like to kind of play a little bit more on the TV to see if that's something that's, just a resolution thing, and maybe the character's a little bit easier to see on the larger screen, or what the case is.
Yeah, I haven't experienced that, and I think it's just because I haven't played a whole lot on the Switch itself. I played a ton of Bayonetta 2 and all of Grease in the docked version. And the only game that I've played completely off is one game that I'm going to talk about shortly, and then also Octopath Traveler. Even though I kind of went back and forth with Octo, I docked it a couple times. But I will say that Grease I experienced docked, and that was a wonderful experience. So that one I played on 27 inches.
I'll have to try to spend a little bit more time with that on the TV.
Yeah, I think, I guess it depends on the game. If you're having issues where things start becoming a little bit too micro, dock it and see what happens.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Well, tell me about what you've been playing.
Yeah, I managed to beat 2 games, which is pretty historical, to say the least. Definitely a monumental moment that I definitely shared with you previously, briefly. But yes, I played What Remains of Edith Finch for the PS4, recommended by Joe. And I've sort of known about the game, but it was definitely Joe that I think just kind of impregnated the thought of sparking that game up at some point. So I beat that, played it in one day. And my mission was to play that and also The Stillness of the Wind on the same day. Unfortunately, that game took a little bit longer for me to finish, and I'll explain why. But I'll start with What Remains of Edith Finch. I recommend this game to pretty much anybody. I think it's pretty accessible. It's very similar to games like Gone Home, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, games like that are basically exploration games where you're essentially in a first-person view. You don't even really see much of your character, even if you look down. So it's basically like just walking in that kind of viewpoint. And what this game is basically you're uncovering the story of Edith Finch's ancestry, essentially, like her family. And it's going to be hard for me to kind of speak on some of the details of this game because I don't want to spoil it, but essentially you're going through a family tree via a journal that Edith is carrying with her, and you're exploring this house that a lot of the members of her family, grew up in and lived in and had experiences in. So again, you want to channel Gone Home and The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. If you have played those games, it's going to be very reminiscent of those. If you have not, I highly recommend any of the 3 because I think they're all great games. I would say that Edith Finch definitely stands out amongst the 3. It's a little bit more innovative and perhaps a little bit more accessible in some ways. Gone Home and Ethan Carter are a little bit more cryptic and bizarre. But this one is pretty digestible and has some great stories that you get to access. And the way that you access the story or the stories of these characters is the most unique part of the game. So, for example, you might be walking to a bedroom in the house and you are exploring one particular character, and you kind of access the character's story by like, hitting activate, or like hitting the like whatever button activates like that particular story, and you're transported into the world of that person when they were alive. And it's really, really interesting. And you get to, like, there's one sequence that I'll kind of reveal where you're flying a kite as a young boy, and you're seeing these scrambled letters in the air. And when you fly the kite through the scrambled letters, they become an actual sentence. And it's your way of telling the story and revealing the story as you're playing and as you're flying this kite. And I thought that was really, really neat. And a lot of the stories are told in that kind of state of game where like you're accessing memories in a very unique way. And I found that to be really a huge takeaway from the game. Not a very long game. I would say it probably took me about, I don't know, like, I would say 2 to 4 hours, maybe, like somewhere around there. I mean, I wasn't really timing myself, and I took a lot of like breaks to go and get food and, use the bathroom, shit like that. But overall, excellent experience. It felt great to beat a game. This game, I believe, is available on most platforms, to my knowledge. Price-wise, I think it was about $20. It was lower and it was free, I want to say a couple months ago, so just keep an eye on sales if you're thinking about picking it up. But yes, highly recommend it. Definitely a game that I'll never forget. Great story and a very unique way of telling a family story.
I just looked into the length, and the main story is about 2 hours. If you do completionist, you're looking at about 3 hours.
Yeah, that's about right.
To howlongtobeat.com. I got to be honest with you. I think if I paid $20 for a game that's 2 hours, I might be a little put off.
Yeah, I was a little bit. I was a little bit concerned about the price, like because I knew that the game was short. But I really wanted to play it, and I just didn't. I shopped around. I tried to see if it was on sale, like on the Switch, because I'm pretty sure it's on the Switch. And I couldn't find anything. I was like, you know what, fuck it. Like this game's supposed to be like amazing, so I'm just gonna spend the $20. I think there are more incentives to go back and play it. Like you have the ability to access stories again. So if you want to experience another story after beating the game, just to kind of reminisce or just, simply experience it again, you have the ability to do so. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the second game I played, like I mentioned, was The Stillness of the Wind. I found out about that game researching like top indie games of 2019, I believe. And that was one of them. And I forget which article it was that I had saved that listed that game as one of their top favorites. But the premise seemed really interesting, and it was available on the Switch. So I thought, let me just get a Switch game, give me an opportunity to break out that system again. And very interesting game. This game, you play as a old grandmother to children and families, and basically there's a lot of family that you're related to, right? And you play as this old grandmother who lives on a very small farm, and basically all you do in this game is you tend to goats, you make cheese, you feed the goats hay, you can plant crops, you can water the crops, and then you check the mail. And then you also find mushrooms for the chickens, because you can take care of chickens as well. So it's almost like a weird farming simulator mixed with like just, I don't know, this element of storytelling through letters. So basically, you're tending to your farm and you're reading letters that are delivered by a postman that you can also talk to. He's pretty much the only other character in the game. Sounds really monotonous, sounds really tedious, and at times it is. And at times I experienced some weird, potentially game-breaking bugs that had to actually, at one point I had to restart certain sections. I had to restart the game at one point because I didn't realize that you had to close the gates so that your goats and chickens don't escape. So that sucked, because I remember I was playing, I was like, holy shit, where are all the goats, where are all the chickens? And it's because I had the gates open. So the game doesn't really tell you what to do whatsoever. It's you're going in blind. You're having to learn the mechanics of making cheese on your own. And once you get through the monotony of like waking up and tending to the farm, because basically what happens, you're tending to this farm in a limited amount of daylight. And once it starts getting dark, you have to kind of like go to bed or you have to go in like
Right.
your little house and like sit in your chair and read letters or read a book or
Right.
make some dinner or whatever. So it does get very repetitive, and you just get to this point where you're like, oh my God, like I just want the game to end. And that's not always a good thing, but
No.
that did happen to me, and I was a little bit upset about that because I really wanted to love this game. And there were aspects about the game that I did enjoy, like tending to the farm actually became kind of interesting and slightly addictive. But it became frustrating when I was running out of resources and I didn't have enough to trade with the mailman to get like a certain item that I wanted. Because he comes and he'll trade like cheese and shit with you in order to get something that he has that you might want. So there's a trading element, which forces you to have to make sure that you are growing crops and you are making cheese consistently and you're having enough to trade with him so you can provide hay to feed the goats. So it gets annoying, and that's the one element of the game that I really didn't like, but it was interesting. I've never played a game like that before, and the letters that were written to you as the grandmother were really well written, and a lot of them are really heartfelt letters. So there's a very sad element to this game where essentially you play as this grandmother who is the last remaining survivor of this farm. You're the last person taking care of it. All of your family members and children have gone and they live in cities and they just keep mailing you. So essentially the game is about loss and sorrow and what it's like to be old. And even your character itself, she moves very slowly, which makes the game progressively kind of hard because you are tending to your crops. And like, let's say you plant like a tomato seed. You have to water that. In order to water it, you have to go to this well that's like kind of outside of like your fenced area, but it takes forever to get there because you walk so fucking slow.
Right.
And there's no way that you can like sprint, or run or whatever. So you're forced to experience this game as a true elderly person. So I thought that element was annoying and just kind of maddening, but at the same time, it was really clever because it forces you to understand what it could be like tending to like a very basic, simplistic life as a elderly woman. So that was cool. Game itself took me about 3 hours to beat with all the bugs and some of the resets that I had to perform. It probably took closer to 4. So a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but it wrapped up in the way that I expected. I don't know if I would ever play it again, but I don't necessarily regret buying it either.
Do you recommend it?
The first word that comes to my mind is no. And that does sound very negative, but I think that you really have to be kind of obsessed with indie games to enjoy this. And you also have to be very patient to go through the slow progression that this game, really kind of puts out there for you. Because this is not a fast-paced indie game. It's a very slow-paced, very monotonous, very patient, requiring sort of game. And I think that if you don't have any of that desire to kind of perform a farming simulation sort of experience, then I would steer clear of this game for sure. Music was really good too, actually.
I think the farming simulation market is, I don't want to say saturated, but there are some games that do that very, very well. So it's difficult to come up with an original take on it and kind of keep it interesting, I feel.
Yeah, I would say also, not to interrupt, but just so I don't lose my thought here, I forgot to mention how relaxing the game was. Like, if you're a stressed out person or if you want to play a game that's going to wind you down, this is certainly one of them.
Yeah, I think those types of games have a necessary place in our society these days.
For sure.
Man, there's way too many times where I've just had like a shitty day and I just need a good game to unwind with and need something relaxing. So that appeals to me.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've never had like any luck with enjoying any kind of like farming game. I've tried like Stardew Valley, and I think that's probably the most famous one right now. Excuse me. That wasn't really for me. Animal Crossing, you know, those types of games are just really difficult for me to get into. So
Yeah, and a lot of people mentioned those games when I had mentioned to some other buddies about the game. And I'm pretty sure those games came up, like Stardew Valley and I think Harvest Moon might have been one of them.
Harvest Moon, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple more that might have been mentioned, but yeah, if you're not into that, stay away from it. The
Yeah.
story wasn't groundbreaking. I think the experience was all right. There was again elements that I liked, but overall I was a little bit disappointed in what was offered because I was expecting a lot more. But yeah, Edith Finch, that was a far superior experience.
What was the name of this one again?
So you have The Stillness of the Wind.
Stillness of the Wind. Okay.
And then you have What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yep.
And it got pretty good reviews too. Like overall, Stillness of the Wind was, I think, reviewed quite highly.
Yeah, I gotta look into it because I don't know. You haven't sold me on it, so I'd like to get a little bit more information about it before I make any kind of judgment of my own. But just the idea of having a farming simulator is, for me, kind of a red flag.
I would, what I would highly suggest doing is look for a demo if there's one available. I don't think there is. Or just go on YouTube, watch 5 minutes of gameplay, watch a review, and that should be enough to kind of find out if it's going to be the right game for you or not.
I'm looking on the Switch now to see if there's a demo for it.
And then other than that, I have still not really played like a real full gaming experience in the VR Quest. I did purchase a couple games finally, and I made a decision to purchase Super Hot and
nice.
Red Matter, which is a game that just came out very recently. And from what I understand, it's a game where you play as some sort of astronaut on some sort of Soviet space base station. And it's just kind of an exploration space game. And it looks really good. It's reviewed highly. It's pretty new, but graphically it looks great. I'm really excited to play that one. And Super Hot, I'm probably going to play tonight after dinner because I've been really wanting to channel my John Wick fantasies. And this game apparently really mimics that. It's quite interesting. I didn't realize that the way that it works is you have to move in order for them to move. So the enemies that are sort of essentially trying to attack and chase you will not move unless you move. So there are times that you kind of almost have to just kind of stand there and shake your fists or kind of do a sort of rolling punching bag motion or a speed bag motion just to kind of get them to start attacking you so you can start, taking their gun away and punching them and whatnot.
I haven't played it in a while, but if my memory serves, they're not completely motionless if you're standing still. They still move, but it's at a severely reduced rate. And what this does is it gives you time to plan out your strategy, but it still imparts a sense of urgency so that you can't just sit back and relax. You are going to run out of time. You'll have more time than you would, because everything is moving at a slower pace, but you do need to move. But it is a really fun game. There's a lot going on in it, and I've never played it in VR. I've only played it on a regular TV. It's really cool. I can imagine VR just being incredibly immersive.
Yeah, I played a very small portion. I think it was like a sort of demo to the game. It was like a sort of intro format, and I got to just experience what it was like to just punch one of these guys, and it wasn't enough to sell me on it. I need to dive right into this and really get into one of those sequences where you have 8 dudes and you got to figure out how do I kill these guys without getting shot at.
That's when the game really becomes fun.
Yeah, and I watched some gameplay. There's a couple people on Twitch that I follow that have been streaming some of that stuff, and it looks like a lot of fun. It's weird because it looks like a weird, almost like an alpha version of a game that you're playing because it's not a highly graphical game whatsoever. I mean, we're talking about Metal Gear Solid 1, PS1 polygon red dudes, just kind of chasing you down. It's a little bit bizarre, but I have heard the VR version is certainly the icing on the cake.
Yeah, don't let the weird graphics dissuade you. The gameplay is really good, and that art direction I think helps kind of make the game. It's part of the attitude of the game. That's not going to mean a lot to you right now, but that game has like an attitude to it.
That's cool. Yeah, I certainly will. I'm looking forward to having a much more concise review on both games for the next episode.
I'm looking forward to hearing what you think.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, that brings us to about the end of our show. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about before we call it a night?
I don't think so. I think, I'll close with my usual closing. Please check out What Remains of Edith Finch. Try and wait for a sale, because I don't know if it's really worth 20, but I would say at most about $15 is pretty respectable for that experience. But check that game out. Check out The Stillness of the Wind. It might be for you. And other than that, try to play some VR.
Yeah, man. That sounds good. Looking forward to hearing what you say about those new games that you picked up. I'm probably going to try to finish up Greece this week if I can. I'm not sure how much longer I have with it. For me, I think Over the Top Tower Defense is going to be one of those games that I'll be playing for a while, just in small bursts. Serial Cleaner, I'm not sure if I love the game yet or not. I think I need to spend a little bit more time with it. But before I move on to Transistor, I need to finish Greece.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of bugs me, and it's such a personal thing, but it's too bad that you bought Transistor on the Switch, and it might still have an element where the sword will talk to you through the Switch, but I do remember mentioning on a couple episodes way back when that when I bought it for the PS4, the sword will talk to you through the controller on the speaker, and that is a game-changing experience.
I actually heard, I think it was an IGN review where they talked about that too, and they said it was something that they missed from the Switch version.
Yes.
But it wasn't like game-breaking.
Yeah, for me, I mean, like, I get really wowed by some of that kind of stuff. And that's just me. But I will say that I wouldn't say it's game-breaking, but it's game-changing. So
sure, that little speaker does so much. You wouldn't even think it.
It packs a punch, and Transistor has to be probably the best game that has utilized that speaker the best so far that I've seen.
Well, I mean, if I could find Transistor on the PlayStation for $3.99, maybe I'll pick it up there too.
Yeah.
So why not,
Fuck it.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you like what we're doing, please take a moment to subscribe on your favorite podcast application. You can find us on the web at WDGRPodcast@libsyn.com. We are also available on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WDGRPodcast, at WDGRPodcast. Will, how can they find you?
Will_gear.
You can follow me at ScionStorm. And really appreciate everybody just being a part of this ride. Thank you for all the questions that you're sending in. Thank you for your comments and discussion on the episodes. And thank you for being patient with me while I've been talking about buying a Switch for 6 months.
Yes, thank you all. We really appreciate all of the love and the engagement.
Yeah. So we'll see you next week, folks. Thanks for listening.
See ya.